Super Tuesday, it is a big night across the country and across the Commonwealth. The polls in Virginia are now closed. Virginia, one of 16 states and territories holding primaries or caucuses today. Now, as tonight's results come in, the 2024 general election for president, well, it comes into much sharper focus. So glad you're with us tonight here on WSA 9 Plus and WSA9.com. I'm Adam Longo. We have you covered tonight on the results coming into us from Virginia. Plus, we're going to be talking about the key issues that are driving you and your friends and family to the polls. First, though, I want to see if we can take a look at the results coming in across the Commonwealth tonight. As a result of polls just closing, we're hoping that we're going to be able to get in some numbers. But if we don't have that at this point, I'm going to be able to show you what our capabilities are this evening here from our WSA 9 touchscreen. So as you can see right now, this is in the Republican primary contest. You see all of the candidates here at 0%. As I scroll down, you'll actually be able to see more of them. So we don't have any numbers coming in on this screen right now. We're going to be able to show you nationally how things are going to be shaking out across the country. As I show you this map, you see all the states here in gray. These are the states that are having their Super Tuesday primary contest tonight. I'll also be able to show you how things are shaking out across the state of Virginia tonight. Specifically, we'll be focused in on Northern Virginia because that is the area of the state where Nikki Haley is going to have to stake a strong flag in order to make her mark in Super Tuesday, not only here in Virginia, but to try to take some of that momentum and carry it forward for her. We'll also be monitoring the Democratic contest. Of course, not much of a contest. Incumbent President Joe Biden expected to win Virginia and the other states that are at stake on this Super Tuesday. But we'll be keeping a close eye on this. We'll be able to show you how things break out county by county, our Northern Virginia counties, as well as you go down 95, some of the bellwether counties. We're talking about Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania, Stafford counties as well. But we want to take you through what we're going to be doing here this evening. We have team coverage on our Super Tuesday results. Of course, the director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics, Professor Larry Sabato, will be joining us with analysis and to talk about some of the key takeaways. But first tonight, to my co-anchor Simone d'Alba, who is outside the Fairfax County Government Center polling location. So Simone, I understand that you've been talking with a number of voters tonight, specifically about the issues that are driving them out to the polls. What are you hearing?
Well, Adam, I did want to mention, too, just for starters, that the polls have just closed here in Fairfax County on this Super Tuesday. And so, I did want to mention, in general, the feeling that people are saying is it's issue-driven, yes, that is making them come out today. So things like immigration, things like the cost of living, inflation, all things along those lines. But more than that, it is a feeling. It is a feeling of being disconnected from the current candidates. It is a feeling that they just can't make it day to day, that they're living paycheck to paycheck, that inflation is just wreaking havoc on their lives. And so, again, the issues are important, but it is a feeling that so many voters are echoing out here in Fairfax today. Now, I did speak with voters in Marshall, down in Fauquier County. We went down there to see them and chat with them, have a cup of coffee. And in general, they also say that they are worried about the state of democracy. Here in Fauquier County.
If you want to know what's going on, especially in Marshall, you're going to know about it first here at Old Town Cafe.
We sat down to speak with Virginia voters about what matters most to them. What's top of mind for you this coming election?
The economy. That is like being a small business owner. It has been really tough.
Finances. Finances are very scary right now.
I'm disheartened, I'm saddened, I'm worried, I'm very concerned about the democracy of the country.
From finances.
I bought a house in 2020. My personal property went up $800. Yeah, that's a hard hit. On top of it, inflation.
To keeping the doors open on a beloved business.
We feel it every day. The prices of the food, you go to the store, it's just insane. It's been hard. It's been very hard.
Even foreign policy.
Also, another big thing on my mind is the Ukraine war. It seems like we've forgotten history.
The future and what it looks like, also top of mind.
I have children and grandchildren. I hope that they can enjoy some reproductive rights after the Supreme Court, which is overturning much of what I worked for most of my life.
And the southern border.
I think immigration is an important topic as well. I mean, it's on the news every day.
I have no problems. You come over here legally. Come on over. Pay your taxes.
Will you vote in the upcoming election?
Oh, yes. 100%.
Something's got to be done. I mean, people are living paycheck to paycheck. The small businesses are feeling it.
Prices are high, but I don't know what can the government do other than set prices, which I believe most people would think would be socialist.
Now, there are many issues facing Virginians this election. In fact, a recent Gallup poll found that immigration is a top concern for many people all across the country. And we wanted to break down those numbers. Gallup says 28% of Americans overall believe immigration is the most important issue. That's up 20% since January, for some perspective with that. And an overwhelming number of those voters are Republican. Now, the same poll found little change among Democrats. Our Matthew Torres spent the day talking to voters about this topic in Fairfax County.
In a community as diverse as Annandale, you get a diverse set of political viewpoints this Super Tuesday.
And I voted for Joe Biden.
I took the Republican ballot today.
I took the Republican ballot.
I feel like Biden has done a great job.
I am a Trump person from day one.
Linda Edwards is a staunch Donald Trump supporter, echoing his belief on immigration.
And there's a lot of crime, and I think it's coming from the border. I think they should all come legally and put their name in and check them out to be sure they're good people.
This country is a mess.
Trump and his Republican opponent Nikki Haley highlight border security during their rallies in Virginia.
The border is unfortunately been conflated with immigration, but I think it's become something else entirely. It's become one of those politicized issues.
Nicholas Carrero is a first-time voter. While he supports Haley, he believes immigration goes beyond border issues. And his mother agrees.
I'm tired of hearing the border stuff because immigration is not the border stuff. It's more than that. It's how you handle H-1B visas. It's how you handle, I would really like to have more people here.
Democrat Mary Turner admits immigration isn't on top of her list of issues.
We really need to start with our own, basically give them more help, especially the seniors.
Biden's approval rating for how he's handling immigration hit a low, about 28%, according to Gallup. Last week, he paid a visit to the southern border where there was a record number of illegal crossings at the end of last year. One of his supporters is Tracy Connell.
Yeah, Trump says build a wall, build a wall. You put an obstacle in someone's way, and they're going to find a way to get over it.
She's also a former ICE agent. She wants a fresh set of eyes to revisit the Immigration Act. Connell believes in support for DACA recipients, preventing green card fraud, and adding more immigration judges to address the backlog of cases.
There's just so much.
And immigration has also been a topic of conversation in this year's legislative session. There were bills proposed, one that would make DACA recipients police officers if they wanted to, and providing health care to children regardless of their immigration status. In Falls Church tonight, Matthew Torres, WUSA 9.
All right, Matthew, thank you. And we sent our Matt Gregory to Prince William County, and he spoke with voters there about, many of them are saying just the cost of living, things like inflation, things like the day-to-day cost of going to the store. Personal economics are what is top of mind for them right now.
Here in Prince William County, we saw some of the lowest voter turnout for a presidential primary in recent memory. And the voters we spoke to said the economy personally wasn't what was driving them to the polls today. In fact, it sounded like most of them were reading from the same script. They all seem to say they're doing well personally with their finances, but the overall health of the economy, that's what they're worried about. On Election Day, we went to the two busiest polling places in Prince William County, and you can see even those spots, pedestrian turnout at best. Low turnout today. Why do you think that is?
I think everybody knows who's going to win.
By noon, the Heritage Hunt Golf Club's polling place in Gainesville had the most voters, so we asked them, how do you feel the economy is going?
Such a personal question because everybody's economy is different.
For me, it's not bad. Yeah. But for a lot of people, I guess it is.
Personally, I can't complain. Yeah. But I look and see how a lot of people are struggling.
Most of those voters were retired, so we went to the next most active polling place, Bristow Run Elementary. We got a similar sentiment there, folks doing fine personally, but concerned about others.
I'm in pretty good shape, but I don't think everybody is.
Even with grocery prices eating the most from American family budgets in 30 years, the people we talked to aren't hurt yet. Still, one woman summed up all their views on the economy overall.
I don't think it's going positive. It's definitely negative for a lot of people right now.
But even with the two candidates pretty much decided at this point, the voters we talked to said a lot can happen before the general election.
One thing that's guaranteed, and that's changes. Yeah. And who knows what now November will bring.
By then, the amount of money in their wallets may determine who they vote for. Now, at last check, when I spoke with the Prince William County Registrar's Office, they said they're at about 6% voter turnout between voting today, early voting, as well as mail-in voting. And I asked, what do you normally see for a presidential primary? They said in the teens to the 20% for voter participation. In Prince William County, Matt Gregory, WUSA 9.
Adam, voter turnout was low here in Fairfax County as well. And, I did just want to mention the polls are closed here, as I had mentioned previously, but we did see kind of a steady stream of voters coming in and out. One voter in particular stands out in my mind. He identified himself as a Republican. And I said, well, hey, who did you vote for today? Would you share that with me? And he said, look, I voted for Ron DeSantis. And I said, why? You did? Why? And he said, look, I don't like any of the other candidates. And he's dead serious, even though Ron DeSantis is no longer part of the race and he dropped out in January. So I think at this point, voters are expressing that exasperation, that frustration, the challenges they say with leadership that they are seeing day to day. And voters are talking to us about that firsthand here in Fairfax County. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Yeah, Simone, and that sets up a potential problem for the almost now inevitable nominee, Donald Trump, going into the November general election. If people have that attitude about him now, how will they be feeling, 6 or 7 months from now as we go into the general? Simone, we're going to be checking back in with you in just a moment. But first, I want to let you guys know that we do have a race to call, and that is that President Biden is declared the projected winner in Virginia. No real surprise there, but the Associated Press and CBS News calling that just a moment ago. Let's bring in Professor Larry Sabato now, who is the founder and director of UVA's Center for Politics. Larry and I have been talking about politics in Virginia longer than both of us are willing to admit, going back to the early 2000s when Mark Warner was running for governor of the Commonwealth. Larry, let's just skip right over that and head into this. I want to talk to you about voter turnout. Very low in-person voter turnout appears to be well below 10%. What does that tell us?
Well, first of all, I can tell you, I go back to the 60s, Adam, if that makes you feel any better. But I can tell you, having had that long a time to look over this state's politics and national politics, you have low turnouts for primaries. We've consistently had low turnouts. Now, if you have a competitive race, if you don't know who's going to be nominated, then obviously you're going to attract more people to the polls. As one of those gentlemen said in your setup piece, everybody already knows who the two nominees are going to be. Maybe Nikki Haley will win a primary or two tonight, or maybe she won't, but it really doesn't make any difference in terms of the actual nomination. So what's the motivation to come out? Well, some people are great citizens and they never miss an election, and good for them. I'm glad they don't. But most people say, I've got something else to do with that time since we already know who's going to win.
Yeah, the rain perhaps keeping some people away. You brought up Nikki Haley there. She has vowed to stay in this race, although it doesn't appear, at least at this point from the polling we've seen, that she's going to do well at all here on Super Tuesday. So what do we suppose is the bare minimum that would keep her in this race beyond tonight?
Well, the bare minimum would be the millions contributed by her donors. Look, candidates don't decide when to get out. Their donors decide when they're going to get out. And to this point, Haley's donors have been willing to finance her, even though they're very sophisticated. They understand the game, and they know that she is not going to be the Republican nominee. But they wanted her to make a stand. They wanted her to send messages to Donald Trump and other people. So they were willing to fund her, and they spent millions and millions on it. At some point, maybe after tonight, if she doesn't do particularly well anywhere, they will suggest that it's time to gracefully bow out. But remember, she's going to do differently as you go state to state. Virginia is ideal for her, at least in certain regions like yours. The Northern Virginia area is full of college-educated, graduate-educated people, both Democratic and Republican. They are sophisticated in their approach to issues. They feel strongly about their political views. And while there are certainly Trump people that fit that category, I would say a large majority in that particular box would not favor Donald Trump and probably are voting for Nikki Haley. So, she might get 35%, 40%, maybe more in Virginia. And that means she's doing well. She has to do well in Northern Virginia, in the Richmond suburbs and the Tidewater suburbs, and places really like the one I live in, university communities. The turnouts are low because the vast majority of people here are Democrats, but the ones who turn out in Charlottesville or Albemarle County would have to be for Haley. And there's some indications that that was going on, but we'll see later tonight.
Right. So taking what you just said there, Larry, as we're seeing our first numbers come in, you can see here, and this is just from a smattering of counties around the state. It appears that Nikki Haley at 36% right here. One of the things that I've been curious about in all of these primaries and caucuses leading up to today, when we see the numbers between Trump and Haley, have you seen exit polls here or anywhere that would tell us, okay, if Nikki Haley gets 40% of the vote in this primary, is there a percentage from that just won't vote for Trump in a general election?
Yes, it varies from state to state. Now, unfortunately, and I can understand why, because exit polling is expensive, we haven't had exit polls from a lot of states. But the more competitive ones, we do have some exit polling from. And there, while it does differ from state to state, it's pretty obvious that a decent sized chunk of Haley's vote overall, maybe it's 20% or 25%. I can't see it going below 10 or 15%, could be much higher than that, will not vote for Trump. Though remember, they can vote for Trump or not. They can vote for one of the third-party and independent candidates or not. They can vote for Biden or not. And their fourth choice is to stay home, which we never recommend. People should always vote and express themselves, but they do have 4 ways to go. And so you've got to divide her vote into 4. What the exact proportions are in each category, I can't tell you in early March, given that the election's voting is in October, November.
Yeah, it's a big key thing to talk about here, because obviously if you want to win a general election, you've got to swing moderates and independents your way. How are you going to do that if you can't even swing a wing of your own party your way? This is a lot that we're going to want to talk about. Larry, stand by, because we want to come back to you and ask a couple more questions in just a minute. But we want to advance forward and talk about some of the feelings that people are having around this election. You know, the general election just 8 months away in November. And even though Americans, they don't agree on who to vote for, one thing that people on both sides can agree on is that, man, they just feel exhausted just thinking about politics. Look at this. According to a recent CBS News poll, more than 40% of voters feel that a rematch between President Biden and former President Trump will be, quote, depressing. Arthur C. Brooke is a professor at Harvard University who studies and teaches courses on happiness. He says if politics makes you angry or upset, it's time to take more control over your situation.
When your political involvement is all about watching cable television and screaming at the TV or writing on social media, it's actually incredibly disempowering to you. The most important thing that people can do to feel like they're more empowered when they don't like what's going on is to get involved at a local level.
Now, Brooks says when you find yourself disagreeing with a friend or family member, take the time to find out why they're thinking that way instead of just brushing their viewpoint off. All right, as we head back to our touchscreen here, I'm able to give you a better sense of some of the numbers coming in. Specifically, we want to focus in on our area. So right up here is going to be Arlington County. And you can see right here, Nikki Haley leading in Arlington County. I mean, less than 10% of the votes have been counted at this point. Again, this number is going to include some of the mail-in votes that have been counted and the early voting totals as well as the in-person votes from today. But you can see 800 to 325. She's got 70% of the vote there in Arlington thus far. You can see these colors, how they're shaded here. Let me explain this to you real quick. So if you see colors in yellow, the stronger the yellow, that's going to be stronger toward Nikki Haley. You can see Trump is this purple color. So the more deep the purple here, the more deeply a county or a jurisdiction has voted for Trump. So you can see up here in Northern Virginia, you look at Loudoun County, it's sort of a light shade of purple, and you can see how close that is right now. I mean, just separated by less than 100 votes, but with only 10% of the votes counted at this point. And then down here in Prince William County, you can see how it shakes out right now. 59% to Donald Trump, 37% to Nikki Haley at this point. Now, if we can take this out, now Virginia is one of course, 13, 14 states and and territories that are doing this evening. We go to the national view, and you can see how things are coming in. So Virginia's not even shaded yet, so it's just too early at this point to be able to call what's happening here. Now, as the results come in tonight, my co-anchor, Simone D'Alba, she's with us again from just outside the Fairfax County Government Center and the polling location there. So, Simone, we heard from Matt Gregory earlier talking about voter turnout. How was it at that particular precinct that you were at, and did they give you, before you left, any of the results of how that particular precinct voted?
Yeah, so this is really fascinating, Adam, because, we've been talking throughout the evening that, look, voter turnout has been low. So today, as of 3 p.m., the numbers that I got officially were Republicans at 7%, Democrats at 6%. And if you look at that from a different perspective, in 2016, which was the last time they had both a Republican and a Democratic primary, the numbers look different. The turnout was at 22% and 21% respectively. But rock with me here, because these are some interesting numbers I wanted to give you. Now, these are unofficial numbers. I will preface it with that. Democrats voted 172 votes for Democrats. Republican votes were at 194. This is interesting. If you hear me, those numbers are very, very close. Fairfax County is a Democratic stronghold. It is one of the most populous counties. It is the most populous county in the state of Virginia. And these numbers are fascinating because, essentially, we've been hearing Democrats walk in asking if they can vote Republican, asking if they can cast a vote for Nikki Haley. So when you just mentioned that Nikki Haley is leading in Arlington, it would not surprise me if we saw some interesting numbers for her here in Fairfax County. And what you're watching too, I wanted to mention this video. This was as the polls were closing. We saw Fairfax County officials going to collect absentee ballots from other precincts. Virginia has 267 other precincts. And so essentially what they do, what you're seeing here, they wheel those little suitcases out and they gather all of the ballots, the absentee ballots, the hard drives from those other precincts, and then they bring them back here to Fairfax County, where they then process those numbers. They go through the voter data, and they really kind of piece together, a look at our Super Tuesday. But again, wanted to bring you back to those numbers again, just how close things are out here with Democrats. Those unofficial numbers I had: 172 votes for Democrats, 194 for Republicans. And again, I bring up Nikki Haley one more time because I saw this when I went out to Fauquier County, to the town of Marshall, when I was speaking with voters, and they were saying, I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, but hey, this Nikki Haley candidate might have a shot. And so we're continuing to see that play out all across Virginia tonight, Adam. Those are just a quick look at some of the numbers that have been breaking down for us here.
Yeah, it's interesting that the numbers between the Republicans and Democrats were pretty close, given the inevitability of both candidates, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. All right, Simone, thank you. So as the results come in, this could be the last chance for Nikki Haley to try and stop Trump's march toward the nomination. Natalie Brand is in Alexandria tonight to take a look at more of the national picture.
From coast to coast, millions of voters across more than a dozen states are getting their chance to shape the presidential race.
Voting is, it's a responsibility we have. And if you don't vote, then you can't complain about, what's going on in the world, because you had an opportunity to do something and you chose not to.
CBS News exit polling from Virginia shows border security was the #1 issue for Republican voters there.
Well, I'm going to vote for anybody who says they're closing the border. That's my issue. That's it.
And by almost a 2-to-1 margin, Virginia GOP voters said they trust former President Donald Trump more than Nikki Haley to tackle the problem. The majority of primaries today are open, like here in Virginia, meaning registered voters can choose which party's primary they'd like to participate in.
I'm a Democrat. I will be voting for Joe Biden in the general election, but I put in a vote for Nikki Haley today.
Nikki Haley, Trump's remaining Republican challenger, hasn't revealed her plans past Super Tuesday. Supporters, including Brittany Martinez, hope she stays in the race.
I say keep at it, because you're a voice for people like me who don't feel supported by the current MAGA party.
A recent national CBS News poll shows Trump has maintained his support among his core constituencies, while President Biden's support among some of his key groups trails what he got in 2020. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Alexandria, Virginia.
Back now with Larry Sabato from the UVA Center for Politics in Charlottesville. Larry, you were telling us just a few moments ago how Nikki Haley is going to have to perform well in the Northern Virginia counties. I mean, let's say, just hypothetically, looking into our crystal ball, which of course you do so well over the years, that Nikki Haley wins Virginia on the back of Northern Virginia. Can't then the Trump camp come out and say, oh, you won the D.C. primary this past weekend and you won the swamp. Congratulations. Doesn't that just play right into Trump's hand?
Well, D.C. certainly played into Trump's hands. I heard a lot of that from Republicans, and even Trump people were boasting that they were happy to lose the swamp. Nikki Haley won that. And Northern Virginia, of course, is connected closely, as it should be, economically, socially, and politically to the district. I don't know how much those things matter, in part because this is playing out as one would expect, given the fundamentals. Even in Virginia, which has consistently been anti-Trump, it is not favorable to Donald Trump. He's going to win a Republican primary because of who votes. It's a relatively small group of people. You haven't gotten that many votes yet from rural areas. Now, they don't vote in large numbers because the population's low. But wait till you see the whole report later tonight or early tomorrow morning. You can go county by county by county, and you're going to see Trump at 75%, 80%, 90% in those counties. And even though they're small, when you win all of them by massive margins, that more or less cancels out Fairfax and Loudoun and lots of other places. So we've got to remember, this is a Republican primary. This says absolutely nothing about the November election.
Right. Here's something that does, though, Larry. I want to get into some of the exit polling data that we're starting to see come in from our news partners at CNN. The first one here, 36% of Republican voters in the Commonwealth say that they would feel, quote, dissatisfied if Trump wins the nomination. That just can't bode well for him in a general election in the state.
No, it can't. But, you know, we've seen this twice, and particularly in 2016. How many people did you know who said, I'm a Republican, but I just under no circumstances can vote for Donald Trump. I'll either vote for Clinton or stay home or pick one of the independents. And what the exit polling and post-election polling showed was that a large majority, in some cases, the vast majority of Republican-leaning voters went back to Trump because we live in a very partisan, polarized era. And in the end, you're going to choose somebody from your family, even if that person is the black sheep of the family. Same is true for Democrats. They'll gravitate to the Democrat. So all I'm saying is a percentage of Nikki Haley's vote will almost certainly go in another direction, because there are loads of people who voted for her, not just the Democrats who voted for her today, but many Republicans who voted for her who are just not going to go to Trump. But there are others who will. And we don't know the proportions yet. We can't know the proportions.
Yeah, that's something very important to keep in mind, that Virginia is an open primary state. You can go in and then choose which ballot you can vote on. You just can't pick both. As you can see here, the Associated Press and CBS News, they have called Virginia now for Donald Trump. We're still about at 11% of precincts reporting across the state. You know, one other thing, and I wonder about this, about how long Nikki Haley stays in this race. In the exit polling done by CNN, 40% of those surveyed said that Trump would not be fit for the presidency if convicted of a crime. So is this one of the reasons you think that Nikki Haley just stays in this as long as possible and donors keep contributing?
I think that is absolutely one of the motives. I think health could be another motive. But fundamentally, you can't count on anything like that. And if there's one thing that Donald Trump outside of politics has proven that he's good at, it's either winning court cases or stretching them out ad infinitum. He's been in thousands of court cases, thousands in his business career. The political branch of the court cases is relatively new, but he's very good, and his lawyers, a law firm full of them, are very good at stretching out the cases. So people say they won't vote for him if he's convicted. His hope is, and he's got a reasonable chance of achieving it, he can draw all of these cases out, even if some of them have started, so that there's no verdict by November 5th.
Yep, we know his lawyers have been doing that well. That is one of the jobs that they have. Listen, you are always so generous with your time. Always great to talk with you. Larry Sabato, director and founder of the UVA Center for Politics there in Charlottesville. Thanks again, Larry. All right, that's going to do it for our stream tonight here on WSA 9 Plus and WUSA9.com. Make sure you stay with WSA 9 for all things Super Tuesday. We'll be having results on our website throughout the night. CBS News will have live coverage on TV beginning tonight at 10 o'clock, and then we will have your in-depth county-by-county results tonight on WUSA 9 News at 11. As for those live election results, pick up your phone right now and just scan this QR code. You'll get a link to the election page at WSA9.com, where you'll be able to find results for the races that matter to you. I'm Adam Longo. Have a great night. We will see you tonight on WSA 9 News at 11.